come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we conduct this meeting. Help us to engage in a productive and meaningful discussion. Fill us with your grace as we make decisions that might affect the community we serve. We ask that you bless everyone in attendance today and those participating from other locations. We ask these things in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
And now the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now going to call this meeting to order, and I'll ask the city attorney to read the conflict of interest.
Under state law, a conflict of interest exists if a council member or certain member of that person's family has a qualifying financial interest in an agenda item. Members with conflicts of interest cannot participate in the discussion nor vote on the agenda item. Are there any known conflicts of interest to disclose at this time? And I'd ask each member of the board to respond verbally.
No.
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 May I ask a question? We have an ethics rule on the book, correct? And we're supposed to fill out forms prior, correct?
Yes, this is an additional requirement.
Okay, and who entered this additional
We get
requirement?
a resolution on the agenda.
So we're reading this before we have the resolution.
There's not a requirement that it begins with. The resolution isn't a requirement, but it's I put this on.
Okay, but we're not on that agenda item yet, are we?
It doesn't take, the resolution doesn't have to be enacted in order for this to be put on the agenda. But the agenda item is simply an articulation of support by the mayor and the members of the commission.
So we're going to go ahead and move forward. And Commissioner Mesmer, just so you know, I have included it on the agenda, and we'll be including it on all further meetings. So moving on to item number 1. I'm sorry, citizen communication, Amanda.
We have one, Mr. Ron Lozano.
All right, Mr. Mesmar's District 3. I label this the Twilight Zone.
Mr. Lozano, I'm sorry, but just your name and address, please.
Okay, are we going to start now?
Yes, I've already started the clock.
Okay. I
We'll
was
give you a
trying,
little time. Go ahead.
can we start the clock now, Mayor, please?
I'll give you a few more seconds if you need them. Just your name and address.
All right, 2410 Riverside Drive. Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. That onslaught indicates I have finally found an item on which Americans 100% agree. This issue may be on your next regular agenda, which refers to a partnership whereby this city will embark on a joint venture with a local company which seeks ghost or such similar refuse or debris, whatever you wish. The agenda states paranormal. I suggest absurdities is a better term. Yesterday, providential intervention provided a respite from this topic moving forward for at least a week. There was not a quorum. Since our children can watch this broadcast, I'll refrain from delving deeper into this proposal. However, the pastoral community has already started to react and has a few choice words of wisdom for y'all. In short, flabbergasted doesn't begin to describe the ludicrousness of this issue. A topic in vogue should be the mayor's initial foray into genteel transparency. Genteel is not intended to be a pun. Rather, it's a reference that no municipal penalties are triggered by a violation, as Mr. Mesmar just alluded to. Independence Day was recently celebrated with fireworks and extensive fire damage ensued in Texas. While we cherish our freedoms, a drought, or for that matter, a flood, sometimes forces reasonable regulatory steps to be undertaken to minimize damage to others. So this little discussion that was held between the three of people on the board already in front of me indicates that something as simple as conflict of interest is probably going to have to be a little bit more discussion on it. Finally, y'all have probably been heavily lobbied on the private matters at the conclusion of this meeting. In other words, executive session. I just ask that you simply be reasonable, because there is a bright light coming into Harlingen, and that's going to be a new constituency that will take us out of the doldrums of the protectionisms that we've had for the last 20 years, as the mayor alluded to. And some of our laws will have teeth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Someone-
Okay. Thank you. Is number one, Amanda? Yes, okay. Item number one, presentation of recognition award to the Harlingen High School South Hawks UIL 1 Act. I didn't think so, right? Okay, so we are going to move on to item number two. Approval of the minutes, the regular meeting of May 4th, 2022.
So
Do we have-
moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next on the agenda is item number three, the consent agenda consisting of items A through F. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number four, investment report of the city of Harlingen for the quarter ending March 31st, 2022.
Good evening, Mayor, City Commissioners. As required by the Public Funds Investment Act, we are required to bring the investment report on a quarterly basis for review and approval by the City Commission. So this report is as of for the 3 months ending March 31st, 2022, and there's a brief summary on the executive summary. We had 69,133,944,000 in cash and investments. We earned 15,923 for those 3 months. The weighted average was 1.151 in interest. And I'd like to draw your attention to page 4, which is a brief summary of the investments. So as you see, our bank deposits, which are at Frost, are at 6%. Our CD at Texas Regional is at 7%, and the local government investment pool is at 86%, which translates to 4.4 million in Frost, 5,035,000 at the CD, and 59,620,000 in the investment pool. Staff recommends approval.
Could you go back to page 4?
Sure.
I need to find it on my sheet here.
Mhm. On page 4 of 16,
4 out of 16?
yeah, on the middle bottom.
Okay, I got you.
And so it kind of like summarizes the par value, the market value, the weighted average interest.
From what I have here, I have a question on page 7 out of 16.
Sure.
Okay. The TIF 1, 2, and 3. Are those numbers correct?
Page 7 out of 16.
Yes. Middle of the page. Under other special revenue funds.
Right, the 575, 794, and 188.
Yes.
Yeah, those are correct.
All right. The reason I'm asking is because I asked for some material from you a while back.
Mhm.
And according to the material you gave me, which ended in September 30th, which was what, 2 quarters ago, the numbers are different from Fund 1, Fund 2, and Fund 3. Is there a reason behind it?
Is it significantly different or? I don't know the
Grand
numbers
total
are-
difference?
I mean, it could be interest earned or,
I see it as 797,909. I think it.
I
it is
could check
significant
those.
now. The thing is, all of them are a lot less. I don't see how Was there a meeting with a TIF?
Not that I know of, no.
No, they haven't made that, Commissioner.
I could check those numbers of what we gave you.
Okay, I'll see if I can swing on by tomorrow or the day
Absolutely.
after and show you what you had given me
Sure.
versus these numbers.
Yeah, because were those cash amounts or was that like fund balance?
A combination of both.
Okay, because the fund balance will be a little bit different than the cash, but we can go through those and I can explain those.
So these numbers here, what are these? Cash
These
or
are the cash amounts that are at the text pool.
cash amounts?
Mhm. They're invested in text pool.
That's as of March 31st.
And it's as of March 31st.
See, because these are significant less than the ones off of September 30th.
Yeah, I can see, I could go over those with you when you come by. Just
Yeah, that's
because
fine.
it could be fund balance that I
It
gave you.
just, like I said, I was going through this and like this really stood out.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
we can review those.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions? Okay.
No, there's no action on this item. It's just a presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Item number 5, consideration and possible action to approve a resolution designating the finance director as employee to calculate the no new revenue and the voter approval property tax rates for the city of Harlingen, Texas. The designated finance director will also certify the accuracy of the tax rate calculations worksheet.
That is something that we already do on an annual basis, but the Texas Tax Code Section 2604 requires the city to designate an individual to do that calculation and to certify it for the city. So they just require that we approve a resolution to formally designate that person, which we will forward on to the Cameron County.
So just housekeeping.
Yes, yes, sir.
So do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item number 6, consideration and possible action to increase salaries for the part-time lifeguard positions in the Parks and Recreation Aquatics Division and to be effective July 6, 2022, with a tiered salary between $13 and $15 per hour.
Good evening, Mayor, City Commission. We put this item on the agenda to see if we can increase the interest for our lifeguards. And so we've been checking with other cities around the area, and they're having the same issue. Of course, it's nationwide, but they've opted to increase their salaries as well. And so they're looking at different methods or different options to increase. And so what we came up with was a max of $15 per hour. And so the way that the aquatics division is split up is we have pool managers, assistant pool managers, and lifeguards. And so they're all certified lifeguards. And so what we want to do is eliminate, or I shouldn't say eliminate, but we want to leave the pool managers at $15, or not leave them, but increase them from $9 to $15, and then change the title for the assistant pool managers and make them guards, make them lifeguards. And then, so that'll be an increase of, I believe it was 5 guards that we would change their title and make them lifeguards. And so that the salary, we want to move up those from $8 to $13. The total amount that we would increase that to, that's estimated on 6 pay periods that are remaining in the year. It's it's $245,419 if we went with worst case scenario. It's 480 hours for all 35 guards, including the pool managers. So the difference would be 91,768 based on what we have in our existing budget. the difference would be 91,768 is what we would have to locate or find within the budget to increase the salaries. But again, this would be worst case scenario if we filled all 35 positions and if they all worked 480 hours.
We have funding to cover the added cost. Right now, we would probably be open at all three pools, Pelton, Victor, and Lawn C. We only have Pelton Pool open because of the shortage of lifeguards. And so we're hoping that by doing the adjustment to their salary, that we can encourage lifeguards that are working in other locations to actually stay in Harlingen and work here.
What's the competition pay?
So
We're actually a little bit above most of the cities that are.
yeah, so I checked with City of Edinburgh. Their lifeguards get paid $9.44. But again, they're looking at increasing theirs. City of McAllen is paying $11.80. City of Alamo is paying $11. Their pool managers, City of McAllen is paying $13.36 an hour.
I'm sorry, you said Alamo was paying what?
I'm
I
sorry,
didn't
Alamo?
hear you, Alamo.
Alamo is paying $11. And of course, the school district is, they're paying between $12 and $15.60 an hour. And BISD is paying their guards $15 an hour.
And these positions, most of them are part-time or?
Yes, sir. They're actually seasonal, so
Seasonal.
they'll only work during the summer.
Okay, so like,
And then we'll let them go.
like to like September, give or take?
Till September, yes.
Okay.
Why did we wait so long to come to this?
Well, we tried reaching out to the schools, colleges, gymnasiums, trying to find see if we can get people interested in applying.
No, I'm referring to the pay increase. Because right now we're what, let's say July 1st. So we already lost the month of June.
Mhm.
In other words, why didn't you come to us like in March or April and get this set up and ready? So the people that you're gonna hire, are they already certified?
No, sir. So what we would have to do, we may be able to get some, let's say if they work for Brownsville or one of the close communities, if they're already certified, then they can come on board. But if not, then we would hire them and then run them through our program to get them certified as lifeguards.
How long do you think that'll take? And another question is, do you have the chemicals and ready to go? Are the pools ready? All you need is just lifeguards?
No, Victor Pool, we need some parts that we've ordered, but we have chemicals for all three pools.
So as soon as you get lifeguards, you can open Lonsy Hill.
Yes, sir.
How much longer before you can get Victor Park going?
If the part comes in, let's say tomorrow, we can have it probably by the weekend. But of course, we would have to shock it and do everything else to get the water balanced and ready to open up.
I don't have an issue with the pay increase. My issue obviously is, shouldn't have waited so long. I got a phone call or two.
Mhm.
Okay. So that was not pretty.
The Javier, the pool managers, to Commissioner Mesmer's point, can you go over what the neighboring cities are paying?
For the pool managers, Edinburgh's paying $12.18. McAllen's paying $13.36. Alamo's paying $11. The city of FAR is paying $11.50 for part-timers and $13 for full-timers. And then, of course, we're paying $9.
I think, oh, sorry, go ahead.
We are paying $9.
Yes, ma'am.
Right now, but we're proposing to go to 15.
I was looking because like the debating on, I mean, comparing for what you're saying, I think we're going like hardcore overboard a little bit. Would it be all right if we switch it like from like 12 to 14? Would that help with the money?
Yeah, we
They're
can
still
do that.
getting a substantial raise, and from what you're telling me, they're still going to be getting more than all the other cities. Especially like the pool managers, they're $14 an hour, and the lifeguards are $12 an hour. I think that's still competitive. And it might save a little bit of money.
We can do that. And I think we'll still get applicants because it's considerably more than what we're paying right now.
So if you could meet somewhere in the middle, just so that way you have a competitive edge. We
So
want to
if-
be fair to all employees. And so that's kind of my thought process on this, all employees of Harlingen. And if we have other employees that are at a lower rate, I'm concerned about raising for some and not others. But if we could at least be competitive in that specific job, I think that would be appropriate.
Okay, what was the amount?
I would say like
14.
just not a dollar. So I would say like from instead of 13 to 15 to 12 to 14.
Okay. So I ran some numbers based on if we paid the pool managers $14 an hour and the guards $12, we would be short 74,000.
So we're saving about 20 grand. Give or take. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion. Okay, so I make a motion. Did you have to say something or not? Oh, I'm sorry. I make a motion to increase the salaries for the part-time lifeguards with the range between $12 to $14 per hour.
Do you have a second?
I second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Wait, can we have discussion?
Sure.
Yeah, once again, management comes up with a solution and the city commission overrides the solution. I say pay them the money and attract the quality talent.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries. I'm sorry, I didn't
Thank
get Commissioner Lopez.
Aye. Excuse
Aye. Okay,
Thank you.
forgot you were there. Sorry. Okay. Item number 7, public hearing to consider an ordinance on first reading for a rezoning request from residential single-family district to general retail district for property located along the south side of US Expressway 77, approximately 475 feet west from Louisiana Street, bearing a legal description of the south 595 feet of Block 8, West Sparrow Subdivision. Applicant is Sandra Garcia.
Mayor, City Commissioners, good evening. We have a rezoning request. This is along the south side of Expressway 77, west of Louisiana. It's a very long, narrow property, but it has frontage on Expressway. So that's the property that we're discussing. The front part is already zone commercial, and they're requesting to zone the rest general retail district, the entire property. Louisiana Street is here and Sunbelt Rentals is over here. So you have the business of Sunbelt Rentals. So we have some residential homes right next to their property, and then you have houses over here. So this is the subject property is vacant, and they're proposing to develop it in the near future if they get the zoning. That's a photo of the property. It's a very, like I said, it's a very long and narrow property. 60 by 700, but it's wide enough to be able to develop. The owners are proposing a duplexes all along the property. And the comprehensive plan calls for commercial for the entire area, so the request is in line with the comprehensive plan. So staff recommends approval. This went before the Planning and Zoning Commission, June 22nd. No one spoke in opposition, and after some discussion, the board voted to recommend approval unanimously.
Any questions?
So it's going to be duplexes across the board, nothing else.
That is a proposal with the zoning. This proposed zoning is general retail district. So it could be a business, but because the property is so narrow and so long, a business is highly unlikely. So the proposal at this time is duplexes all along the property. The scope of the property doesn't allow much like a business, but the requested zoning is general retail district. that zoning allow gives more flexibility on setbacks.
Okay.
Thank you, Javier. Now we'll move to the public hearing. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak on item number 7? Having no one present to speak in opposition, is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
We're going to read it.
I'm sorry. Yes, please read the caption.
An ordinance amending the code of ordinances of the city of Harlingen, rezoning from residential single-family R1 district to general retail GR for a property located along the south side of US Expressway 77, approximately 475 feet west from Louisiana Street, bearing a legal description of the south 595 feet of Block 8, a WM Sparrow subdivision, providing for publication and ordaining other matters related to the foregoing.
Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Javier. Item number 8, consideration and possible action to increase salaries for positions that require a CDL license in the Public Works Department to be effective July 6, 2022, with a starting salary of $18 per hour for positions that require the Class B CDL and $19 per hour for those positions that require the Class A, CDL.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Craig Cook, Assistant City Manager and Acting Public Works Director because Rodrigo has resigned. We currently have 22 vacancies for CDL drivers in Public Works, 2 in Fleet, where we have 3 on board, 5 in Streets, where we have 24 on board, and 15 in Sanitation, where we have 37 on board. We're proposing, as the mayor read, an increase to $18 an hour for Class B licenses. Class B vehicles are trash trucks, sweepers, and dump trucks, anything that requires an air brake system. $19 for Class A, and those are the tractor trailers that we use to haul our trash to Brownsville currently. We're also proposing a longevity pay adjustment of 1% per year for each year of service. I've provided this in hard copy at your places. This is a summary of the 8 or 10 pages of spreadsheet. So I can quickly tell you that the net effect of this increase is $867,000 and change. 511 of that is in sanitation, which is an enterprise fund, 70,000 to fleet, and 285,000 to the general fund. The impact for the rest of this fiscal year is 98,000 to sanitation, 13,000 to fleet, and 54,000 to the general fund for the CDL licensed drivers. The chart at the bottom includes the 1% pay adjustment, pay incentive for longevity, and that has an impact annually of $204,000 and change to the general fund and $146,000 to sanitation. And for the rest of the fiscal year, $39,000 to sanitation and, to the general fund and $28,000 to sanitation. All told, in very round numbers, $1 million a year for the rest of the fiscal year, something like not quite $250,000.
This will make,
That's-
oh, sorry.
That's a total increase that includes sanitation and general fund.
Yes,
And this will make us competitive, correct?
yes, it will.
Okay.
The school board recently approved $16.75 for all of their bus drivers. I don't know. They must have a Class B, I suspect. Buses have air brake systems.
Is there any other discussion? Any other questions? No, thank you, Craig.
Thank-
Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Item number 9, consideration and possible action on presentation by Eric Holtz from TXU Energy on electric rates.
Mayor, members of the commission, if I could just give you a brief history on what's transpired with our electricity cost. In September of last year, the commission hired TXU to provide electric services to the city starting January 1, 2023. The rate that the commission had authorized was 0.0388 and going on 60 months. We felt confident at the time that we would be able to get that within the short term. We got pretty close in December. We got to 0.03995, I believe. And then about 30 days after that, Russia happened. So that put that really threw a monkey wrench into the entire process. And so here, Eric is going to give us an update as to what our options are going forward, given that situation. Eric.
Thank you, Gabe. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the commission, Eric Holtz, TXU Energy. Effectively, this evening, wanted to go over some of the market talking points and really do a look back as to what's happened with power prices, specifically here in Texas, over the course of 2022. If you can go ahead and advance the slide. Oh, I have it. So this is just a quick overview of the components that go into your electricity prices. If we look at the left side of the screen, that's the commodity charge. That's the price that you pay per kilowatt hour. And fundamentally, the two biggest components are your cost to produce energy, and we're going to go into why that's the catalyst for some of these higher prices. And then the other component is going to be your ancillary costs that the suppliers must charge. That includes a host of different items, including line losses, metering fees, ERCOT fees, congestion management, and any supplier costs to serve the customer. Unfortunately, a lot of folks throughout Texas know that having those ancillary costs hedged in the commodity price is very important, as we saw some pretty nasty bills coming as a result of Winter Storm Uri. But that cost to produce energy effectively is two components. Number one is natural gas, and the other one is heat rates. Natural gas prices drive power prices in Texas 10 months out of the year. And as we know, and we're going to get into this evening, they're certainly elevated. The other side of it would be your transmission and distribution charges, or TDU charges. That's the part of the invoice that you see from AEP. That's based on your demand. Effectively, it's what we call the poles and wires component of the invoice. I did speak to Gabe earlier about some of the programs that we have that are available to the city for you to save on that side of the invoice. But ultimately, that's not the negotiated contract price. That's the commodity charge, and that's what's being lifted by these high nat gas prices. So natural gas, that drives your power prices 10 months out of the year. Prices have doubled this year, could go even higher if we see additional summertime demand as it relates to heat. When we had the advent of fracking with the Eagleford and Permian Basin, we saw natural gas prices tumble. There used to be a lot of volatility when the majority of nat gas production was offshore. There would be significant disruption to production when we'd have hurricanes in the Gulf of Mexico, would shutter production, shut down oil platforms, et cetera. If we look back to 2008, historically, it's when we saw some of the highest power prices in Texas. Since we had this fracking revolution, the byproduct of going off or after all of that shale-based oil was natural gas, so much to the point that a lot of the producers were actually burning it off because the price was going so low it didn't even pay for them to capture it. We saw it plummet down to just about $2 per MMBTU. Effectively, over the last 2, 3, 4 years, it's hovered between $2 and $3 per MMBTU. Correspondingly, we saw power prices tumble from 8 cents to 7 cents to 6 cents to 5 cents, and then even into 4 and then touching the 3-cent range. Now that we've seen what happened in Russia, it's put this huge disruption into the global demand for Texas-based natural gas and really shot the prices through the roof. Natural gas futures for June settled at $8.30 per MMBTU. We actually saw it touch $9.39, which sounds and is very high, but still probably the envy of Europe, where they're paying 30 to 40 US dollars per MMBTU. What we've seen is that just minor disruption to the production of natural gas can cause a huge shock to the system, and prices have been extremely volatile. Supplies and storage are also below normal. There's literal caves throughout the US where they have the strategic supply of natural gas pumped underground in storage, and stocks are now 12.3% below where they were last year and 13.2% below the 5-year average. US exports of LNG, which is about 15% of our domestic production, they've also increased as we've seen the output of natural gas going to Europe because of their increased demand, as they're not relying on Russian produced gas. If we look at the 12-month natural gas strip on the top right of the screen, I mean, you can see right there where it hovered between $2 and $3 all the way back to 2018, and then the huge run up that we've seen in calendar year 2022. Some kind of good news is if you look at the end of that chart, there's a pretty significant drop off. There's 2 reasons for that. One is Freeport LNG, which is a huge LNG production facility on the Gulf Coast, sustained an explosion a little over a month ago. Basically, market analysts look at that and said, okay, they're not going to be sending off as much LNG to Europe. Initially, they had said it was 2 to 3 weeks. Now they're saying it's going to remain offline through basically the balance of this calendar year. So that's disrupting the demand for Texas gas. It's more for us to keep domestically and therefore lowered prices. The other side, probably not as much of a rosy picture, but technically getting into a recession, and recession equals demand destruction. So effectively, there would be less demand for natural gas. That's also putting some or taking some pressure off of nat gas prices. So how did we get here, right? We're talking about, like, I feel like I'm following the spirit of everyone else that spoke this evening before me, where it's increased cost, right? Inflation. We're seeing high energy prices across the country and the world. Doesn't matter if you're in Texas or anywhere in the US or in Europe, you're seeing higher energy prices, higher cost to heat your home, higher cost to cool your home, higher cost to fuel your car. There's a coal shortage due to lack of investment. For a long time, there was a lot of pressure from an environmental perspective on coal. It was also a lot of economical pressure. A lot of our fleet in Texas is supplied by natural gas for power generation. A lot of the coal plants have been retired. They couldn't compete economically with the low cost of natural gas. It's a really interesting thing that's happening in Germany right now. For the longest time, they had flipped over to what I'd call environmentally friendly fuel generation. They're now firing their coal plants back up. Pressure on fossil fuel companies. We've seen less physical investment in infrastructure. And then on the other side is renewables. There's not enough metals to produce additional renewable generation. And of course, all of these things take time. There's nothing to wave a wand to say we're going to build more generation or develop more oil and gas wells that's going to put immediate relief on prices. As we've seen with the volatility in the market, just the smallest disruption can cause significant volatility. Now we're in summer, and if we get into another one of these stretches of heat, that can put additional upward pressure on prices. And if we look towards winter, if there's another polar vortex event, specifically in the Northeast, you're going to see a huge increase of demand for natural gas, and that's going to push up our power prices in Texas, not because necessarily it's cold here, but cold in the population corridors of the Northeast. And effectively, lack of stability in Europe, likely to prolong US price volatility. Until there's some sort of normalcy, as we'd call it, in Europe, analysts are saying that we're going to continue to see these elevated costs. So where we were, as Gabe had pointed out, in September of last year, pricing was just below 4 cents per kilowatt hour. I have a bit of good news today. They're below 5 cents on the longest terms. Take that with a grain of salt, because about a month ago, they were in the 8, 9, 10 cent range per kilowatt hour. So it has come off significantly. Effectively, the outlook is whether or not you'd like to move forward at this point with executing a contract or continuing to monitor the market. But the customers that have been winning in ERCOT are staying ahead of the contract expiration date as to avoid the market from running through you. The current contract for the city does expire on the 31st of December. So we're effectively into that 6-month range from expiration in which you have to make a decision. I would certainly caution from making a decision later in the year when we're into the winter months, potentially between now and what we consider a shoulder month or fall, to see what the market looks like and continue to monitor it. We have the capability to refresh our pricing daily. So that's effectively what we decided to do last year, was set that strike price at 3.894 cents per kilowatt hour. We just never achieved it.
Sorry about that.
That's the market, right? I don't think anybody foresaw the events in the Ukraine. And at the end of the day, that's the largest catalyst for the increase in prices that we've seen and the pressure on natural gas.
I'd like to just add a few comments. When we signed this contract, right now our provider, we get our energy through TCAP. And when we signed this contract, we essentially had saved about $1 million a year. About a little over $500,000 went to waterworks, and the rest went to the city. Most of it went to the city. Part of it went to the airport. Right now, we pay about a little over $1 million to TCAP in energy charges. If we were to sign today, that cost would go up by about $260,000.
That's correct. And that would be on a 120-month term. So there is backwardation in the market, again, pointing to a lot of the near-term volatility. I didn't even price a 12 or 24-month option because I think the city commission would find that completely unpalatable. But if we looked at a 36-month agreement, you're roughly speaking around 5.6 cents. But from a 3-year to a 10-year, you would drop down to just under 5 cents at around 4.9. So there's a significant amount of savings to be captured in taking a longer term view. And fortunately, the city has that ability. You have the stability that the city of Harlingen isn't going anywhere. You have a stable load, which is attractive to us as a supplier. And you also have a great credit position. So not a lot of customers have that benefit, whether it's manufacturing or potentially commercial real estate. Those markets are much more volatile. They tend to essentially limit themselves to a 2 or a 3-year term.
Now, in the past, when we had higher rates, we did execute blend and extend rates. We talked about that with Eric this afternoon. Essentially, if the market rates would drop for natural gas, what we could do is we could take whatever years we had remaining on our contract, sign at a lower rate and just blend that out so that our rates would drop slightly, giving us some savings. So that is an option. The only thing is that we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow in the market. So right now the rates are a little under a nickel per kilowatt hour. If I knew for certain that they were going to drop even just a fraction further, I would recommend that we wait. But I don't think even Eric can tell us what the rates are going to do in the next few weeks.
There's no crystal ball. EIA released their most recent analysts and essentially are calling for natural gas to be north of $4.50 per MMBTU through the end of calendar year 2023. So that's effectively already baked into the rates that we're looking at today. Again, prompt month gas is at around $5.50 per MMBTU, but there's really nothing on anybody's radar that says we're going to go back to $2 or even $3 per MMBTU natural gas, which effectively is where we would need to be in order to capture a price below 4 cents per kilowatt hour. Historically, the average in ERCOT is around 7.5 cents per kilowatt hour. It was the longest view for a significant amount of time since deregulation that 5 cent, or what we called nickel power, was really a good decision for anyone securing a contract. It wasn't until we were really spoiled by these low nat gas prices that we saw rates in the 4 and even 3 cent range. So even capturing something in this present market that is sub 5 cents, I think that matches up pretty well with outside of the current contract, which the city happened to execute at basically the lowest point in time where nat gas prices was. But any other contract y'all have had since 2002, I think that 4.9 would match up pretty well or below.
So we're looking at 120 months, is that right?
That's 10-year contract.
Yeah,
And
again, that's.
How long, you mentioned that we could go back and amend the contract should the rates drop. Is there a certain period of time that you have to be at that rate before you can do that?
Not necessarily. It really depends on the market. Again, if it dropped, half a cent, it probably wouldn't make that cost effective.
Mhm.
But if we saw some significant downward market movement, effectively what we would do is buy back the hedged volumes or quantities of electricity. And then we're adding on whatever it is in the proposal, 2 or 3 years additional term. And then the two rates are effectively blended out in order to give the city some immediate price relief.
And that's the only option, 10-year, because we're committing the city for 10 years and.
Oh, no, not at all.
No.
Just to be clear, I did price out terms from 3 years up to 10 years.
Okay, no, it's because I just don't feel comfortable, a lot of things can happen in 10 years. And then for us to say, oh, let's do the 10 years. I'm like, that's,
What would the rate be for committing the city for 2 to 3 years?
I didn't price a 2-year because that's going to be a very elevated number, but the 3-year, I believe, was coming in at around 5.6 cents or $56 per megawatt hour. Yeah, so it's about 0.7 of 1 cent higher to go from that 10-year to a 3-year. And then it's, basically steps back through the backwardation out to 10 years. So you might be able to capture something at around 72 months for, the low 5 cent range.
If I may make some comments, I have to reveal to you that I'm securities licensed. I have in front of me the futures chart of nat gas. And right now, we've fallen about 40, 44, maybe 45%. I'm just doing the numbers in my head in 5 weeks. Commodities have taken a tumble in the last 2, 3, 4 weeks. There's different economic pressures. I wouldn't blame Russia for the price of natural gas, guys. If you were Germany, that's an absolute true statement because that's where Germany gets their nat gas from. You mentioned the explosion at the plant on the coast of Texas. President Biden doesn't want that plant to reopen to ship out natural gas. That is part of what's caused this decrease. The Federal Reserve is going to raise interest rates and raise interest rates and raise interest rates because whether you know it or not, we talked about inflationary pressures on wages, and we just passed a few measures on that. So I'm out of commodities right now. Maybe I get back in, but I would say the trend is your friend. We're back now, like I said, March 30th, March 29th, April 1st prices. So I would say, can we give you some wiggle room And you can negotiate with Gabe in the next couple of weeks?
No, absolutely. And that's kind of the suggestion that I would make to the commission is to, effectively, we're going back to somewhat of the same strategy we had in September.
Right.
But at that time, we were seeing prices increasing. Now we're seeing them decreasing. A lot of it is the Federal Reserve trying to slow the economy. Hopefully not crash it, but slow it. But with that comes demand destruction, which to your point is why we're seeing some decreased pricing on oil, which went from $120 to what, $100 a barrel. And natural gas, which just 5 weeks ago was pushing north of $9 and is now sitting at about 5.5.
And even corn, wheat, and soybeans have taken a tumble similar to the chart.
The one thing, and going back to this slide that I would just caution though, is the commodity charge. The first thing that's highlighted is the cost to produce energy. There's two components to that. One is natural gas, effectively natural gas, and the other is a heat rate, which is a non-denominational value assigned to the efficiency of a power plant. Those two tend to move cyclically. So when we see downward movement on natural gas prices, we tend to see an increase in heat rates. So that could be detrimental to falling nat gas prices, that the actual commodity price stays somewhat flat or could potentially increase. However, that being said, if there was a range that the city commission felt comfortable with as far as executing A, term, and B, price, but I would also caution not to be firm with both. There has to be flexibility on either the term or the price. Otherwise, we find ourselves in a scenario in which we did in September, where we're chasing basically a cap on both
Right.
in a rising
Hence-
commodity market.
Hence my phrase, wiggle room.
Right.
I mean, if we could save 1/10 of a cent or 2/10 of a cent, may not seem like much, but over time it adds up to real money.
What would the term that the commission would feel comfortable, number of years out?
I do like that with, I don't know
I-
what Commissioner Mesmer said, to allow you to
Yeah.
negotiate what you think.
The scientific term, wiggle room. I'm not comfortable with any time span. I can't predict the future.
I would suggest nothing like 10 years, though. I think that's too long. I don't know what you think, Mike.
I can't predict the future.
The only thing is, I mean, to his point, we're going to be here. Harlingen's going to be here. We're not going anywhere. And if there's room to save money and then to go back and revisit the contract, if there's a significant drop, they're allowing us to do that. So the further the term, the more savings that you see.
No, I get
Right
that.
now.
I get that.
Most governmental entities have been taking a very long view on power. And that's whether it's a municipality or a county or a school district, because of the things that I spoke to earlier with credit and longevity and stable load. You have the ability to effectively take advantage of the market to secure a rate that's lower than a short-term price because of that backwardation. So to that, I would let it play in your favor. It doesn't necessarily have to be 10 years, because between a 10-year and a 9-year and an 8-year, there's not that much of a difference. It might be, $1 per megawatt hour.
Okay,
Maybe you're more
you
comfortable
used-
with 7 years versus 10.
You use the word backwardation. Would you explain contango and backwardation to these folks?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's basically the commodity price is trading at a higher rate in the near term than it is the further out we look. What's interesting with electricity is there's not as much liquidity when we look further out in the marketplace. So we don't tend to see a lot of volatility in those outer years, but the prices are trading at significantly lower values 10 years from now than they are today. A lot of that's the market saying, okay, we'll figure it out and it'll be figured out 10 years from now, versus the near-term view, which is, oh my God, what are we going to do? We don't have enough natural gas, or there's disruption to the supply chain, et cetera.
Now I get to chime in. You're going to get some wiggle room, I believe, my number one concern is seeing a contract. Okay,
Mhm.
could you provide me or provide us with the contract?
Yeah, Gabe has a copy of the
Okay.
agreement. Yep.
Is his for 3 years or is it for 5 or 10 or?
The one that he has on file was for 60 months, but again, that pricing's expired because it was generated in
We're
December of
not gonna get that
2021.
price, no.
But the contract language would be the same.
What I did when we got pretty close to it, I signed an agreement for the rate that the commission had authorized, 0.0389, sent it to him, but we never got to that point, so it's just useless. He never could execute on that. Because the prices just went up above that and they have never come down below that number.
The only thing that would change would be the term and the pricing. Everything else.
Precisely.
Everything else will remain the same.
Correct.
Okay.
With the one caveat, there's an allocation of what we call greenback rebates, and those are correlated to the term. So that's kind of an extra value add that TXU Energy gives our customers. So there's an allocation on the agreement of rebate dollars that the city can use to offset any capital expenditure that you've made on energy efficiency projects. Those tend to be reactive. For example, an HVAC unit replacement, and it's a 15-year-old unit. Inherently, the model that you're using to retrofit, the one that went down, is more energy efficient. Sometimes it'll be more proactive, in which the city will say, we're going to change out city hall lighting to LED. But either way, it's a flexible program because it's something that we handle internally. So you can use those dollars towards a variety of projects for the city. But again, it would be correlated to term. So the longer term you execute, the more dollars come with the rebate program. So that's something that we'd have to adjust if we were to change the term.
So between 7 and 10 years, you're saying there's not going to be much contango.
Between 7 and 10 years, correct, because there's not as much liquidity in those outer years, but certainly, you know, between a 7 or 8 year and a 2 or 3 year, you're going to see a significant lower price.
I would say just get the best deal you can get, Gabe.
That doesn't help me much.
So,
Wiggle room, Gabe, wiggle room.
so in sum, I think Commissioner Pettis is saying he would like something between 3 and 5 years.
No, I can, like I'm saying, if 7 years is fine and stuff like that, just when I hear 10 years, I'm thinking like commitment, that's a long commitment, 10 years. And, like you said, one of the biggest things that drove the prices was Russia and Ukraine and all that other stuff. Well, I don't think that's going to last 10 years. So the, prices may get, may change. Again, I'm not like an expert like Mr. Mesmer over there, but I just don't like the commitment. But if, Gabe, I trust Gabe, and I know Gabe will do what's best for the city. So if he thinks that in the long run, that 8 year, or 7 year, or even 10 year, I mean, you're the man.
The question now is, what is the wiggle room that he mentioned? Is it?
I don't
3 years,
know.
5 years? So
I would,
do we go back to 2 weeks from now? We get a contract, we'll see where we're at, then maybe we can make a determination whether.
What we can do is effectively refresh all of the terms every day over the course of the next 2 weeks, and actually build out a chart that shows and follows the market movement, and provide you with an updated contract as well. And then based on, your assessment after 2 weeks of tracking that market movement, to effectively land into a range. But I would look to set, some sort of range this evening, or
I would say about
revisit
8.
it in 2 weeks.
No more than 8 years
Yeah.
and lower than what we're at today.
hopefully.
Okay, because we're at 4.04. What is it?
It was 4.9 and change, so
I would love to get back to 0.3883,
me too.
but that's not going to happen. Okay,
Only with happy pills.
Hmm?
Only with happy pills.
okay.
I don't even think. Okay, so is there any other discussion? Is there a
So
motion?
I'm sorry, the latest refresh on the 120 month was 0.499171. So just to give you an idea of
So
how
call it 0.5.
it's basically 5 cents. And that again was on 10 years. So we would have to see some additional downward market movement in order to come with a 9 or an 8 or a 7-year price that's at or below that range. And maybe that's what you want to look at, is an 8 or a 9-year price that's at or below that 4.9, which is currently the 10-year price.
My fear is getting hit with another 649,000.
So to that point, and we discussed this in September, our price is our price. So it includes all of the ancillary costs and the hub to load zone nodal congestion. So the city can rest assured that it's inclusive of those Winter Storm Uri ancillary costs that y'all were unfortunately hit with.
You shouldered the market risk.
Correct, it's hedged.
So I think what I'm hearing is less than 8 years and preferably less than 0.049, whatever number you said.
Today, it's just a gnat's hair, less than 5 cents.
It's got to be a lot more than that, a lot more than 5 cents. Okay.
It was 0.4991.
And maybe look at the prices of between 7 years, 8 years, 6 years. I think they'd most be comfortable with less years if it's not that significant amount of savings.
Right.
We're going to do all that we can to shoehorn the term to meet the rate.
Thank you.
Well, I wish success to you and us.
Likewise. Appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you. So do we have a motion? We still need a motion for Gabe.
We need a motion to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract under a certain term and a certain rate.
I'll make a motion to allow city manager Gabe Gonzalez to negotiate with TXU at a rate currently under 5 cents a kilowatt hour, and for a period of 3 to 7 years to lock in. Let the market determine the time and the price on your best judgment and on TXU's best judgment.
I second the motion.
All those favors say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 10, consideration and possible action to approve a resolution regarding conflict of interest admonition to be read before all city board meetings. Mark?
Yes, this is a resolution that was requested by the mayor. And under this resolution, an admonition such as what was read before the city commission meeting tonight would be read at the commencement of every city board and at the beginning of every regular and special meeting of the city commission. And I'll reread that admonition. Under state law, conflict of interest exists if a council member or certain members of the person's family has a qualifying interest in an agenda item. Members with a conflict of interest cannot participate in the discussion nor vote on the agenda item. And then it ends with a question: are there any known conflicts of interest to disclose at this time? And we would ask each member of the board or members of the city commission to respond verbally to that statement.
And so if there's not an attorney, Mark, then it would be the chairperson,
Yeah,
correct?
it states that if there is not an attorney present, then it would be the presiding officer of the board who would make that.
I don't get this because we already have the ethics rules on and forms to sign to leave. This is from the Department of Redundancy. This isn't quite a Soviet show trial, but we have to show up here and declare our innocence, assuming that we're guilty of something. The other thing, then, it's more English law where you have to prove your innocence because you're assumed guilty. I think this is just overboard.
I don't think this is overboard. I think this is just, the direction that we're trying to go is in a direction of transparency. And this is everyone that's what, and I just want to verify, this is for all boards, like the P and Z, EDC, all those, correct? And this will just be, basically putting it on the record that, and I understand they have to do a written conflict of interest, but this is also putting it on the record. Now, especially now that we'll be, hopefully, if everything works out, televising all our meetings, where they'll be able to say on, no, I have no conflict, and it's out there for everyone to see. And if, for some reason that wasn't the case, it's on record.
Correct. This is just so that way we are being as transparent as we can. And if we're redundant at some points, I think that that's okay. We owe it to the community, to our constituency, to be as transparent as possible. And this will help with all of the boards. And of course, with this commission, I would imagine not a single commissioner would have a problem stating that they don't have a conflict before each meeting. It takes really about a minute, less. Yes, great. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. I'm
Aye.
sorry,
Aye.
do we have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries. All right. Item number 11, consideration and possible action regarding the City of Harlingen resolution to televise the regular and special meetings of the City Commission on the City Channel. Mark?
I guess we had a meeting late Friday where we found, and Mary, you can add to this, but I guess there was some money, some funds that were available because the city had Channel 500, and that money can only be used for equipping the station. This channel station has been sitting in account. I think it totals now about $900,000, which the city could lose if it's not used for the purpose for which it's intended.
You got me at $900,000.
All right,
All
so basically, this was a station that had been used before COVID by the district. The city's going to be utilizing
The
TV
district,
channel,
meaning the school district?
under
Okay.
an agreement with the city, but the city owns the channel. And basically, we're going to start using, it's a resolution calling on Gabe to activate the channel to start televising, once we're ready, regular and special commissions at the city meeting, and then to use the channel for other public governmental purposes.
And where did this $900,000 come from?
It's been adding up because
From where?
It's from
the federal
Spectrum.
government.
It's from Spectrum for the right of way. It's for part of the fee they charge. It's a 1% fee they collect from their
So you're
constituents.
welcome.
I'm dumbfounded.
So we're very excited. We're very
900 is
excited.
real money, baby.
Yes.
Ooh-wee.
Now, keep in mind, the monies have to be used
Yes,
for
yes.
Right.
the
Now,
pay channel.
we knew the money was there. We just couldn't use it because we didn't have the right, we didn't have a station here that would broadcast under the PEG channel. So I did speak to Thomas Aguillon with Spectrum. So he knows this resolution is coming, and he knows that we're going to activate the channel to start broadcasting our meetings through that venue. And so he's excited about it, willing to work with the city on that.
Is this channel on antenna or cable only?
It's through Spectrum, so I don't know, whatever,
Through Spectrum,
through-
so you have to have.
it'll be through
Spectrum.
fiber probably,
So-
maybe some
So if,
coaxial.
does Spectrum do internet here?
Yes,
Okay, so one
But
could
no,
watch
they
it.
We have Spectrum access to the building because we have their station here. But we use a different provider for the internet.
the goal is to be able to
No, no, no.
have it on the website.
Yes, yeah. I'm trying to put this all in. So if somebody at home has Spectrum, they could go on their internet and watch this? Or it would be on their TV?
It's on their TV, yes.
And if you didn't have Spectrum TV, then you're unable to watch it?
That I don't know. Is that correct?
I think Spectrum streams their shows. We'd have to get more information, but I think people that have Spectrum can watch online, right? The channels on Spectrum. So I think that
a lot of cities still need a service on the side to get them on.
that wouldn't be a stretch to do. Once we get all the equipment in place, we could probably get something pretty easily to
Well,
actually.
this sounds brain dead easy.
All right.
Okay.
So,
The one thing is that I would like to, I guess, add is that would it just be the city commission meetings, or could we have also any meetings like the PNZ and also the EDC displayed on the channel as well? Any meetings that's just basically here, right?
As long as it's.
Okay, cool. And I also want to say thank you to Sergio, because Sergio's the one that told us about this. So thank you, Sergio.
yes, we are very excited, and it'll also be to be able to promote the city of Harlingen events that we have, Rio Fest, all the great things that we have in store will be on the channel hopefully really soon here. So with that, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item number 12, consideration and possible action regarding the revision of the City of Harlingen's website. And I asked this to be placed on the agenda, and I've spoken with Sergio, and he is going to help us revamp our city website so that it's easier to navigate and is up to date. And we'll also be going out and asking, getting cost to be able to do that. Does anybody have any discussion? Okay, do we have a motion to
Yeah.
approve?
So moved.
Just a
Second.
quick question. Do
Yes.
you have a website in mind that you want our city website to look like?
San Antonio.
Yes, we have given some samples to Sergio, and he knows what he wants to do. He's just trying to get the most competitive rate.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have
I motioned.
okay, and we got a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 13, consideration and possible action regarding the creation of an ad hoc small business committee. I also asked this to be placed on the agenda. This is going to be a group of people, individuals from our community that are small business owners. We would have this committee to further advise us of any challenges, hurdles that they have encountered in opening their small business, and of course, continuing to flourish within the city of Harlingen, and they'll be able to advise this commission on how we can better improve certain avenues, like streamlining the process, the permitting process, and things of that nature. And so the hope with this is to initiate with this small business committee and eventually have a small business board.
Define small business, please.
The small business would be a business that's operating in the city of Harlingen that is not a large corporation, I would say, with under 50 employees. There's different levels, I would imagine, of small business, but to me, that is something that we can define if we need to.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we have item number 14. Does anyone have any board appointments?
Yes, ma'am, I do. A procedure question before I start. Do I need a motion to remove and a follow-on motion to appoint, or can I do a remove and appoint joint?
Well, if a person's term is ended, then you don't need to move to remove, right? If a person is holding over, if their term has ended, then.
No, okay.
Okay, but if their term is active, then you need a motion to remove and then a motion to appoint.
All of these are either done or vacant. All right. For the first one, to appoint Robert Greider to the Golf Course Advisory Board.
Oh, just keep going.
Oh, okay, all of them at once. All right. Second one would be to appoint Melissa Boykin and Belinda Palomino to fill 2 vacancies on the Keep Harlingen Beautiful Board. Appoint Kristen Lucky to vacant, as you were, to fill a spot on the Library Advisory Board. And finally, to bring us in compliance with the change to the Airport Board of a member of the Airport Board cannot be a member of the follow-on board. A motion to remove Ricky Leal from the Economic Development Corporation Board,
Okay.
and then a appointment of William Peacock in his stead.
Okay, now,
Okay, yes, John Pettis to the Veterans Advisory Board.
I'll make a motion to remove Nicholas Consiglio from the Airport Board and appoint Alejandro Gallaga to the Airport Board. Appoint Steve Brewer to replace Homer Ramos, who resigned from the Golf Course Board, to that particular board, the Golf Course Advisory Board.
And I would like to add Lillian Kim on the Animal Advisory Board. And I would like to add Angelina Cortez to the Youth Advisory Board. And I was noticing Amanda on my list for, it says the Museum Advisory Board, and it said Kristen Lucky. I had replaced her a couple meetings ago with Alejandro Munoz.
We're updating the board structure,
Okay.
and they're ready for taking, so hopefully it will be done by next week, because we're going through all the. So we want to start on the software, on the board software. We want to have it complete.
Excuse me, Amanda, I can barely hear you.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I said that right now. It's.
She's updating the boards.
Okay. Can you hear me now, sir? No?
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. What we're doing right now, sir, we're updating the board's book, making sure that, you know, everything is correct before we start utilizing the board software. There are some changes though, like as far as the terms on, especially the airport board, and now the terms as far as November elections. So we need to calculate that, especially with the new commissioners came on board as far as appointing boards, and see that there's changes that we have to do. So hopefully we'll be done soon on that, and we can provide you with a complete notebook to each and every one of the commissioners. And that way you can get familiar also with the qualifications and all of that as far as residence requirements. And it'll be better, it'll be a lot better now that I know that I have the board software.
Perfect. And for mine, you can keep it electric. I don't need to have them.
Oh, okay. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you,
Did
ma'am.
you have any appointments, Commissioner Lopez?
I'm gonna wait for everything to be updated. There are some issues with mine, so once I knock that out, but once Amanda updates it, then I'll push through all my appointments.
Okay. And I do have one, Ernesto Cisneros to the Parks and Rec Board.
Okay, you can vote on those as just a slate.
Yes.
Yeah.
If it's not unanimous, then we're gonna have to go back.
Well, hopefully everybody can
Okay.
respect everyone's appointments. Let's see. Do we have a,
Motion to approve.
Second.
all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mark. Item number 15 is executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code, Section 551.071 regarding contemplated or pending litigation or matters where legal advice is requested of the attorney on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the city commission under the Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with the act, Texas Government Code, Section 551.072, regarding the purchase, lease, or value of real estate if the deliberation in an open meeting would have detrimental effect on the position of the city of Harlingen in negotiations with a third person regarding some of the following projects, Texas Government Code, Section 551.087, regarding commercial and financial information from business prospects with which the commission is conducting economic development negotiations and/or to discuss or deliberate financial or other incentives relating to the following projects: the Harlingen EDC, Project San Pedro, Project Machine Rental, Project Gas and Go, Project Alphabet, Project Spec Building 3, Project Retail, Project Organic, and Project Garden. Do we have a motion to go into executive
Motion.
session?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going into executive session and we will be back shortly. Thank you.
Commissioners, in your space, you've got a budget book for tomorrow. If you could bring that with you for tomorrow's meeting.
That's it here.
It's, yes, sir.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, yes, sir.
So the time 8:42, and we are back from executive session and going into item number 16, consideration and possible action. We will on B, machine rental. Is there a motion to approve as discussed in executive session, subject to legal review?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item C, gas and go, and D, alphabet. Okay. Item C, gas and go, to approve as discussed in executive session. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And D, alphabet, same. Do we have a motion to approve as discussed in executive session?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Our meeting is adjourned.